Welcome into the Sources Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball podcast on the KSR Podcast Network, presented by our very delicious friends, Parlour Pizza. Shout out Parlour Pizza, always and forever. I'm your host, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very happy to be joined for the three-person layout with both Smiths. I've got a Smith on my left and a Smith on my right, and it's absolutely justified after just what a freaking week, folks. Think about where you were this time last week, your level of confidence this time last week, post Jalen Lowe news, all of the above, to where we are sitting today. Back-to-back quad one victories, back-to-back 17-plus point comeback victories in true SEC road games, starting with the Malachi Miracle in Baton Rouge, 18 points down to come back and hit the game winner at the buzzer. And then to follow that up with Shawn's absolute favorite thing in the world, a quad one win in Knoxville to beat the Tennessee Volunteers. I think that is just, if you were to ask for his favorite thing on planet Earth, I think that those words strung together in a single sentence, that would be the one. So how are we feeling, Smith? We'll start with you, Shawn. How are you feeling?
You know me, it's quad one territory now. We actually have some to discuss. And Kentucky's flipped things, right? Like we're not, it's not out of the ordinary to see them get down 17 or get down by a large margin. Like that's been happening for most of the season, but now finding ways to win and getting in the win column. We'll get into what they need to do to not put themselves in those positions again. But hey, you go pick up 2 quad one wins, and now the resume you actually have one. Like you in a couple of days, you've pieced together something that now shows a resume that you're trending now, even though you found a way to be down a total of 35, 36 points combined in those 2 games. You're winning them. And that's where you have to choose to really discuss this, is they're finding ways to get on the right side of the win-loss column. And that's a big step in the right direction. You can get to the other stuff, but that's the positives.
Spencer, mood today versus mood this time last week.
Yeah, brutal. I mean, yeah, it's been great. Shawn's exactly right. We kind of flipped it. You're looking at halftime of the LSU game. You're staring at maybe a 1-4 start in league play as like a very real, not only a possibility, but like a likelihood at that point. Because you're like, okay, we're down 16, 18 points to LSU on the road. That's going to be tough to overcome. And now, shoot, we have to go to Knoxville next. And what's that going to look like? So my mind was dark. I was like, there's a very real possibility that we start 1-4 in league play, and we give up, to Shawn's point, 2 quad one opportunities in the same week. And I don't know when the last time we started 1-4 in league play is, but it has to be historic. But then, to Shawn's point, exactly, we flipped it. You know, we showed a lot of fight and toughness. For a lot of reasons, I think this team has really developed that like knack for always believing that they're still in the game, kind of no matter what's going on. So you pull out that game at LSU, and you kind of know, hey, we have some real things that we need to fix if we want to do the same thing in Knoxville. And to be fair, and again, another second half performance where some of that stuff got fixed for us, so we know we're capable. And now you're 3-2, and you're right in the thick of the SEC race, which is where you want to be.
Shawn, we don't need to dig too deep into the LSU win outside of kind of that last maybe 5 minutes and how it ended, obviously, and what it meant, before kind of really just digging into Knoxville, knowing kind of in hindsight what the back-to-back wins, 3 straight, down 12, and coming back to win in where we are today. So just talk me through that end against LSU, the fight that Ortega showed, the fight that Denzel Aberdeen showed to just kind of will them to the finish line, and then Malachi to get it across the finish line, and just the most unbelievable. I mean, just in terms of execution, the full court pass, the turnaround, Malachi positioning himself for the straight ahead, 17-footer at the buzzer. Like, I couldn't imagine any execution. Like, if you were to say, hey, Malachi is going to get the game-winning shot attempt, I'd say, well, here's a loss coming. It's much, I'd even told his family that, like, hey, I love Malachi to the depths of my soul, but I'm not drawing up a game winner for Malachi Moreno at this stage of the season, knowing how desperately Kentucky needed that win. So for it all to unfold the way it did, your thoughts on how they escaped for a Malachi miracle?
I mean, it's not what you designed it to be, but when you've had the season that Kentucky's had, right, you can say a lot of it was not executing, not having great game plans, and maybe not having the ideal roster. But the other side of it is you didn't really catch a lot of luck in your favor too. And with a play like that, you got the design. That's not the option that you wanted primarily out of it, but a guy went up and made a play that potentially has flipped your momentum for your season. And sometimes that's all you need is just something to kind of go your way to then spark confidence. And now obviously it didn't look like the best of the confidence on Saturday, halfway through the first half or late towards the half, but they found a way to win. And before we get too deep into it, I feel like you got to mention Colin Chandler.
Yeah,
times here just because he's found the ball in his hands or made a defensive play a couple of times. Even going back to the Missouri game when Ortega missed a layup, like there's plays that he's made down the stretch that set Kentucky up. He delivers that pass, and on Saturday he gets the steal and the assist on the basket that puts Kentucky up for the first time. Like there's huge plays being made there from him. A guy, Jack, that there were times where like, now why is he in the game late for certain situations defensively? But starts with LSU and obviously what Steven was doing that night, and it was just really cool to follow and see with his family, and just the moment in itself in a place that has produced so many magical moments over the course of Kentucky basketball history. You go back and you have another miracle in Baton Rouge. Just the freshman Malachi Moreno just rises up, grabs one. It's a guy that I was trying to beat just about 7 months ago. So I'm glad to see him doing something that I'm a fan of, and not doing it to me. But man, what a play that's really set Kentucky up to. I'm not saying that this is going to be a Final Four path run, but they found a pulse, and it's the Cardiac Cats. But they're finding ways now, and if they don't have that play, I'm not sure Saturday's comeback happens.
And Spencer, that's a great point, because I'm getting some type of feedback here, but this team just needed to find joy. Like, it just needed to find some type of belief that they could do it. Like, I think they're all talented, maybe not as talented as they hope, maybe don't fit together as well as we all hoped, but they just needed to have some proof of concept, like the work that they're putting in, there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that they would be rewarded for it. So I think more than anything, that particular win was just about, all right, let's get this monkey off our back. Let's win a tough game. That was a tough, desperate LSU team that their athletic director 24 hours before that said, hey, you're canned if you miss the NCAA tournament. So they had a lot to play for, kind of in a similar boat to us. They were at home. Like, that was not an easy feat to pull off. And you got the joy, you got the celebration, the water, all of that stuff to set you up for Saturday and that trip to Knoxville. I just think the joy that they earned from that, and the confidence that they built organically, I think that means just as much as anything that this final score suggested.
Yeah, it's a little similar to what Shawn was saying. Like, you're building a foundation right now that you can really build off of, to where you're capable of playing at an elite level. Like, we've seen a second half against St. John's, a second half against Indiana, now against LSU, and a 30-minute stretch against Mississippi State, and now a second half against Tennessee, where you say, you know what, that level of basketball, if I was going to take a KenPom ranking for just those kind of second halves and in the last 30 minutes of Mississippi State, you're playing like a top 15 team in the country during those stretches. So you know that you're capable of playing at a really high level. It's the consistency and all that. But there's something to be said about an identity that forms when you've been through the fires of, like, this is not going well and the wheels are almost totally falling off. I mean, the first half against LSU was as low as maybe I've ever felt about this team, because I was like, this is an LSU team that is without their best player. That is, the arena is not exactly packed and super rowdy at this point in the game. And we just seem like we have no fight right now. And to go from that and to totally flip it on its head to, hey, we scored, I think, close to 50 points in the second half. We became, obviously this really efficient team, and we saw fight, and we saw a lot of determination that we didn't see, for instance, against Michigan State in Madison Square Garden. And we didn't see, for long stretches against Louisville and things like that. And we saw it for any portion of the game against Gonzaga. So we're now building a foundation on something that you're like, this is something that we can really now start to generate a lot of momentum off of. And now it's like, we know we're capable. I think early in the year, we weren't sure if we were even capable of this type of a stretch. Now we know we can do it. So now it's just about how can we now avoid the slow starts? How can we stretch that for 40 minutes instead of just 20? How can we get guys dialed in from the very beginning and guys who really buy into whatever their role is? And that role might be different than what they thought it was coming in, like Mo Diabate. He's maybe carved out a niche, especially in the game against Tennessee, that was maybe a little bit different than what he envisioned back in September. But are we getting guys to buy into that? And are we okay with the identity of what this team needs to be in order to produce more second halves like we saw in Knoxville and in Baton Rouge? And it's exciting. It's like, hey, we've got something to build off of now, which we didn't have for a long stretch. So that's fun.
And Shawn, did you have a follow-up to that? Or?
I was just going to say that they found themselves in familiar territory at the half. Like we've seen this before, right? All season long, where they've been in situations in the half where things don't look good. I mean, Alabama, the list goes on and on. But now they're finding themselves in a different territory at the end of the game when the final 40's up. And what can they find in those segments of second halves against Mississippi State, LSU, Tennessee, to then say, okay, how do we piece this together to make sure we're not putting ourselves in a situation where it's just razor thin, right? Like when you're talking about the margin for error, when you're coming back in the second half, like if one possession goes differently for Kentucky down the stretch in either of those games, they lose. And you don't want to be in those situations. But finding a way to win and just in a gut check moment of the season, it's changed my opinion about that this team actually has some fight about it, because that's what was missing the most. I mean, we don't have to get into execution and everything about that, but where was the fight? And now you're seeing it. And I loved the end of the game Saturday, how it got a little, chippy and a little heated, because I was like, you know what? These guys are starting to take on some of that. And let's see if you can carry on some of that toughness and see what they can do here.
And Shawn, just kind of about the starts of the game and just kind of the response and resolve that we saw in Baton Rouge. I actually didn't hate what we saw to start the game in Knoxville. Like I thought that there was some fight, and I thought that it came down to a lack of execution. And I think a lot of it was just, you got to give credit where it's due to Tennessee for hitting big shots. Jacoby Gillespie was on a different planet, and other guys hitting uncharacteristic shots that totally against everything leading up to that point, which happens. It's basketball, and you I didn't feel as down about the overall product at 10 minutes in against Tennessee the way I felt 10 minutes in against LSU. So I think there was a lot to dislike about their effort, the performance in the first half against Tennessee, but I don't think it was necessarily about the fight. I don't think I think that maybe like a lack of engagement and some ball watching and some of those defensive things that have continued to pop up, that was frustrating. But I think it was more of just giving credit and hoping that the law of averages kind of play into their favor. To their credit, in the second half, that's exactly how it unfolded. Kentucky started hitting shots. And I think individually I guess to keep them alive, I think the conversation starts with Jasper Johnson. They don't even put themselves in position for the second half comeback without Jasper. So I'm just thrilled with how he responded to that moment and scoring 12 points in the first half, and really made it could have gone even worse. Two fouls for Denzel Aberdeen 2 minutes into the game. Like, it could have spiraled south in a big way. He responds, hits some big shots, keeps him in single digit territory, slips away a little bit thanks to, I think officiating stunk. I thought there were a lot of things that led to the lead blowing up the way it did, but just kind of keeping it at arm's reach. I really love that. And then right off the bat, Shawn, and to start the second half, Denzel Aberdeen rattles off 7 straight points, hits back-to-back threes, and it just kind of feels like from that point forward, they're in it. They are in position to make that run. So I think it was the battle of two halves for Kentucky's 2-point guards the rest of the way, which I think is super, super important, knowing where we are with no Jalen Lowe.
Yeah, they need both those guys, right? And if Jasper's able to give you 19 minutes and make a couple of shots and 4 assists, is that what he had to? Like just a really efficient 19 minutes for him. And I'm not sure every night's going to look like that, but anytime he's on the floor and he gets a clean look, he's capable of making a shot. And that's the biggest addition. And when you look at the last couple of games, they've found a way to make the 3 ball. which is then put them in position to win games. And you're right. Early in the second half, I knew Kentucky was going to be there in the end. Like I was like, they've done enough to get them in a position to just keep chipping away, and then the pressure is going to flip. Even though Tennessee's in that building, we had seen for the last few years that building has not been a factor in this series. Like, they've not had the success at home against Kentucky in recent years. That there for a while was the storyline going in that Kentucky struggled to win in Knoxville. So just seeing them make plays and put themselves in position to close down the stretch. But those two being what they're being at point guard, it doesn't always have to be perfect. It just has to be effective. And seeing Denzel do what he's doing down the stretch, they're starting to find something. And this is where it's not a positive that Jalen Lowe had an injury. It's not a positive that they don't have him the rest of the way. But given the circumstances and the back and forth of not knowing, it's allowing guys now to just settle in on a roll, to know that, okay, this is where I'm going to be. This is what my job is, night in and night out. Jasper Johnson, mine is to come in and make shots and not be just a liability in defensively or go in and be a zero on the offensive end of the floor. I have to be able to confidently take and make shots if I'm going to play. So it's allowing people to do that then means you discover an identity as a team. And then you start to figure things out of where you want to go. And that's what I'm seeing happen in the second half. Now it's just about finding the adjustment to what is my identity to jumpstart the game. Where do I want to go with the basketball? Who are guys that I want to get in taking shots early? What is our defensive adjustments that we make to start games off better? Those things will, I believe, get ironed out over the next couple of games, but they're establishing an identity of who they are closing games. And that's a huge step in the right direction.
And Spencer, I feel like to start the game, it was also just Tennessee's identity of, hey, we're going to be tougher than you. We're going to be more physical. We're going to pinpoint the weakest link. And they deemed Malachi Moreno to be that early and really attacked him. And I thought that kind of set the tone in some of those, like, hey, I just don't know where the fight back comes from. Jalen Carey, I think, started off red hot and then cooled down. I think settled into, kind of understanding how to guard him and guard him without fouling and some of those things. But, I think physicality response first half to second half was awesome. Malachi specifically, obviously Mo Diabate stepping up in a massive way, but that was kind of a tale of two halves as well, just seeing how they went out of their way to attack the weaknesses and then Kentucky kind of turning those weaknesses into a strength.
Yeah, we are in a really bad habit right now of letting other teams dictate the early flow of the game and letting other early on in that first or second segment. And it's been a lot more prevalent in the second segment where after we've made a couple subs maybe or something where other teams are really starting to kind of enforce their will a little bit. And you're right. We saw the same against Tennessee. I think it was 9-8, if I remember correctly, after maybe, I think it was Yelovich hit a three. So it was 9-8. And then we let them go on an 11-0 run where they really enforced their will. And during the early stretches of the game, what I'm seeing, we're just way too reactive. We're just way too reactive to stuff rather than being proactive and trying to enforce what we want to do. So like I was really paying attention to Malachi because it was super obvious early in the game that he was struggling with the physicality. So I'm watching Malachi early in the game. And Malachi is way too often early in the game, got his legs locked in the middle of the lane and he's letting Carey come into him, right? And so like Malachi wasn't seeking out the contact first. Like Carey was the one putting his hip into him and moving Malachi out of the way and sealing in that position. I saw guards when the ball was going up, for a shot, they're turning and looking. They're not trying to go and find and make contact and hold so that they can rebound down. Like we're just way too reactive early in the game. And then a little bit later in the game, we decide at some point, like, hey, that's going to flip. In the second half, I saw Malachi going and hitting guys first. And a lot of the rebounding that Mo Diabate was able to do was because Malachi was clearing out a lot of space. Malachi was hitting guys and clearing out space, and it doesn't show up on his box score. I think he only finished with maybe 4 rebounds. I think it might have been 6. But a lot of those kind of second chance opportunities that Mo Diabate created were because Malachi was eating up a lot of space in the lane and trying to kind of drawing guys in to help clear him out. So then Mo Diabate is able to kind of float in that second level and kind of clean it up a little bit. But I think the biggest stretch of the game for us was, and this is becoming a little bit of a theme. We did the same thing against Mississippi State, a little bit against St. John's. And Shawn will tell you, as you know, as a coach or whatever, you're telling your guys, it's so important to win the final segment of the first half. And you got to win the first segment of the second half, especially if you're losing. We go down 17 points with 3.5 minutes to go. I think Nate Ament hit a three to put us down 41-24. And then, so we're down 17 with about 3.5 minutes to go. The next 6 points decided the game almost, because if we let Tennessee win those next 6 points, it might be too insurmountable. Instead, we win the next 6 points. We cut it to 11 going into halftime. And then we come out of the second half and we win that first segment. We cut it to 6. So we won the last segment of the first half by 7 or by 6. And then we win the first segment of the second half by 5. So all of a sudden a 17-point lead goes down to 6. And now all of a sudden it's like we got a ball game. And for the first time in the whole game, Tennessee has game pressure on them. So they start to play a little bit tight. And they start to second guess some of those shots that they're taking. And guys maybe give up a good look because they're like, I'm not sure. And all of a sudden there's just a little bit more pressure than there was before. Same thing with LSU. And all of a sudden, like, we're playing a lot more free because we're just like, we just got to get this thing under control. So we're playing free. We're not thinking, we're just playing, which was a lot of fun. So winning that last segment and the first segment, right there before and after halftime was massive.
And that was Jasper in those last 4 minutes doing awesome stuff as a shot maker, just kind of just letting his just raw ability shine. Like I just love that he just went out there and hooped. And then Denzel doing the exact same thing in the second half, especially like he hit the 2 big straightaway threes early back to back. But then, man, once we got into the like, all right, now it's a ball game. Now we're just it's a straight up who's gonna have the better fight down the stretch. And Denzel, just the way he just kind of had that Hoopers approach, man, it was just like, hey, I've been here. I've done that. I won a national championship. I sold all of my Denzel Aberdeen stock, Shawn, early in the season. Did not believe in him once Jalen went down to be the guy. Like, that was part of the reason my push for Jasper being the guy. I did not have that belief. And just the way we saw him navigate the offense and just run the show, it was like, all right, I was wrong. I was totally wrong. I did not think that he had it in him to run the show the way he did. And I thought he was terrific, man. I loved his response down the stretch.
I think there's something to be said about not just experience, but having experience playing in the places that they're playing in now. Like, these are buildings that he's been in. These are games and opponents that he's played against. And although he's different in a position on the scouting report now, that it's not in a role like he had at Florida, but he's got championship experience. And a lot of it too was when you bring Denzel in, you bring all these other pieces in, like, everyone had to find an identity. Like, even Otega Owe had to find whatever his version of Otega was with this current team, because he's not playing with the guys that space the floor the same way that Kentucky did a year ago. Like, all these guys had to transition and be something, and it's taken a little bit more time than we thought. And we're going to see where it goes over the course of the next 2 months. But, man, big shots, big plays, playing out of ball screens and getting downhill with a purpose, and just timely baskets, and just momentum and energy playing from the guard spot and making plays. It changed what Kentucky did late in both those games. And we've said it all along, Jack. If this team is capable of making shots, then they have a chance to be successful in this league. But when you start 0-2 in a Power 4 league, it is really hard to get back ahead. Really hard. I don't care what league you're in, SEC, ACC, whatever. It is really difficult to get back ahead and where you want to be. And they found a way to have some momentum here, and can they build on it? And point guard play is the big reason why. And Colin Chandler making shots. Jasper Johnson chipping in and making shots. First time, like, there was games where Cam Williams was the three-point shooting, right? Or one other guy would make a couple. Now you're getting multiple guys getting 2-3 makes a game. It's just different, man.
Spencer, just like we all predicted, Kentucky now leading the SEC in three-point shooting. Just like, we never had a doubt, never lost hope about this team's, or just even had in initial belief, because even from the start of the season, there really wasn't a lot to suggest that this would eventually be a three-point shooting team. But to Mark Pope's credit, every single time he was asked about shooting, he said, I've never seen the numbers not eventually work themselves out. and to his credit, they are now 5 games into the SEC, leading the conference in 3-point shooting. Jasper doing what he did, Colin doing what he did. But even if it's not, Cam stepping up, it's not just one guy that you're leaning on, kind of similar to Kobe Brea last year. It's kind of just a by committee approach. And to their credit, they're hitting shots. And Ortega, of all people, has been probably the most consistent all the way up until this game in Knoxville.
We've seen, let's start with Ortega. We've seen with Ortega that he can make shots when he has time and space, right? When he has time to kind of load that really weird kind of loading thing that he does before his shot, and he's got time to get it off cleanly, he can make it. Like, I've got confidence in him to make that shot. And that's what we've seen a little bit. But that comes from having other kind of guys on the court that are also stretching the floor a little bit, and guys that are attacking closeouts. And so what I've seen more since conference play has started is we actually have closeouts to attack because we're playing more shooters. And, Shawn kind of made a little bit of a point earlier, and I said this on the last podcast, it's not a good thing that we lost Jalen Lowe. He does so much for you, but it is one of the few silver linings in that is that, yeah, you can put another shooter on the floor. You're kind of forced to put another shooter on the floor. We talked about that on the last show. So now you've got a guy like Jasper. And there was one play in particular where we're down 7 to Tennessee in the second half. Tennessee was being relatively aggressive on the ball screen actions where the bigs were coming up. They were either hard hedging or they were flatting for a little while. There was one where Mo Diabate set a ball screen for Colin. Colin comes off of it. And that big kind of has to step up to Colin because remember, Colin's a shooter. So that big can't kind of sink back a little bit. He's got to step up to Colin. Then Colin's able to just quickly dump it off to Mo Diabate. And now he's got space and he gets 2 feet in the lane, which early in the year, Mo Diabate was not able to get 2 feet in the lane all that often, but he's able to do it. And he kicks it to the corner. Guess who's in the corner? It's not Jalen Lowe. It's Jasper. So now somebody's got to fly to Jasper because it's code red. We got to get to that guy. He's a shooter. Well, guess who it was? It was the guy who was guarding Denzel Aberdeen. And so now he swings it to Denzel Aberdeen, who gives a quick pump fake and he hits a 3. And all of a sudden we're back down 4 again. It's like that whole action was like a perfect summation of the type of rotations and closeouts that we weren't really able to generate early in the year because 1, guys are hitting shots. And 2, we maybe have an extra shooter or 2 on the floor now that we didn't have before. We've got Yelovich out there a little bit more now. Now Jasper's playing. And to the point with Jasper, there's really something to be said about not looking over your shoulder. Jasper's probably feeling a little bit more free right now because he is literally the only other option besides Denzel that we're comfortable playing, at that spot. So he's kind of I'm not really at risk of losing my minutes here. They kind of need me to just go out there and be me. So I'm just going to go do it. I'm not worried about getting pulled and only playing 2 minutes today because I took 1 bad shot. It's I can just kind of go out there and play. So it's fun. It's we have closeouts to attack now. We have rotations to make. Guys are confident in making that extra pass. And then when it gets to Ortega, he's got time and space to load up his shot. So he's got more makes. So it's all kind of predicated on one another where it's iron sharpens iron. And we just got a little bit of that going right now, which is great. But we're playing regular rotations with 3 or 4 shooters on the floor, which is what you need to do if you want to keep this going.
And Shawn, one quick message from our friend at Parlour Pizza, and then I want to get your take on the Kentucky boys kind of building some chemistry together. But I'm building chemistry with Parlour Pizza because Parlour Pizza is our premier game day destination. From award-winning pizzas like the Doctor or fan-favorite hot honey pepperoni to Parlour's famous house-smoked wings and extensive craft beer selection, Parlour has a menu that will please the whole family. Their location on Harrodsburg Road is just a short drive from Rupp Arena. Don't miss out on their great happy hour coming Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. to enjoy discounted pints, cocktails, and starters. Parlour is looking forward to celebrating 2 new locations this year, coming soon to Lexington out at Hamburg and Richmond, Kentucky. You like that, didn't you? I know you like that. Jasper and Malachi together, I thought even just take away Jasper's shot making. I thought the chemistry that they're building together in that, the 1-5 chemistry playing off each other in ball screens and just pick and roll. I really, really love what we're seeing out of those 2 playing together. What did you notice from those 2? And is it just the Kentucky effect? Is it those 2 growing up together, playing together for so long?
I think it's a lot too about, what Spencer's saying about just Kentucky being able to play in space differently. Like the scouting reports and the film in recent games, it looks different than it did 2 or 3 weeks ago with the guys that are on the floor. But I mean, with Mally, you've got a guy that sets screens and is very fundamental in making contact out of those screens. He knows how to roll. He knows how to position his body. Like this freshman season that Malachi Moreno is putting together in a season where it's been hard for anyone on this team to sustain has been impressive, because he has sustained from game one to now. And there is things early in the game when it comes to, opponents attacking him, or it comes to positioning or fighting in the post or fighting defensively. But you have seen consistent effort and growth from him from game one till now. And Jasper is a crafty guard. Like, Jasper's crafty with the ball in his hands offensively, with the ability to also rise and shoot. Like, when you put those two things together and you've got Otega playing the way he's playing, you got these other guys playing with the confidence that they're playing, then you can have chemistry like you're seeing develop within two guys. It is really cool that it's the two Kentucky guys that are finding it. But I thought Spencer made a really good point a moment ago. When you're not looking over your shoulder, now you're not thinking, you're just playing. You're playing basketball and you're reacting naturally without thinking about, okay, if I make a mistake here, I may get pulled. We may go a deeper spot in the rotation, or it may be somebody else's option because I got a DNP the last game. Now you're not worried about those DNPs. And that's not, like he said, it's not a positive that Jalen Lowe is not available. Like that, I'm not going to find a positive in that. The only positive is it's just kind of guys now, maybe with some help and some guys out, you've got a rotation kind of intact. But guys now know I'm on the floor and I have to produce. And there's nothing taking me off the floor right now. This mistake's not going to cost me. It's going to cost us, but it's not going to cost me my spot and on the bench. Now I can play freely. And I think you're seeing Kentucky do that. And Jasper's probably the one benefiting the most.
Yeah, and Spencer, he brought up just kind of the consistency out of Malachi. Like, I even thought it was a first half to second half just growth and how showing how quick of a learner he is, where he's getting destroyed down low. I mean, they're attacking him clearly, and then he responds with 3 blocks. I mean, he makes 3 unbelievable plays on the ball, and kind of throws back the haymaker that they were clearly trying to distribute to him. So I loved just his response in that regard as well. Just kind of opening himself, even if he's not the most dynamic shot blocker in the world in rim protection. He's more of a contester than a pure blocker. The plays he was making on the ball and leading to transition opportunities the other direction with three blocks, I thought that was massive.
Yeah, we're watching Malachi in real time have like kind of a total revolution of like him realizing over the course of this season, like, oh, I can do this, and oh, I can do this really well, and oh, look, I can make an impact here. And it's like, it kind of reminds me of some of those teams, when we had some of those freshmen, under the Cal teams and stuff, where it's like, man, you look at the maturation from November all the way to March, you're like, wow, that kid grew a ton. And we're watching that with Malachi right now, which is super fun. And he's finding ways to impact games. And if I had to guess, I would say, and Shawn knows Rick Barnes and their staff and all that, and he's been able to watch them practice and everything. I haven't been able to ever watch them practice, but I think if I had to guess, what Rick Barnes probably said is he noticed a trend lately where he said, hey guys, when Malachi plays well for this Kentucky team, they tend to just play better as a unit. So let's attack him and let's go after him and let's maybe try to get him in foul trouble. And let's make him have a really, really hard afternoon as a freshman in Knoxville. And let's see if he's got the stuff to respond. Because when he plays well, I feel like their unit plays well. So if we kind of take him out of the picture, maybe that'll help our cause. Because you're right. I think they attacked him early. I think they were really physical with him. So to me, it was very clear, like this was part of the scouting report. Like we are going to want to make his afternoon really difficult so that he doesn't have the impact, or maybe we get him in foul trouble. Because in my opinion, I'm guessing Rick Barnes is saying the drop off between Malachi right now and Brandon Garrison is pretty noticeable. So if we can kind of cut off Malachi a little bit and maybe get him in foul trouble, get him on the bench, make him have a tough afternoon, they're going to really suffer down low. And to Malachi's credit, he really responded. He really responded. Like I said earlier in the show, I saw him in the second half seeking out the contact and really trying to be super, super physical with guys. He decided at some point, I'm not going to get pushed around. I'm going to make things happen. And like I said, a lot of the impact that he had won't show up on the box score. He did a lot of really, really good stuff. There were some drives that were made where he's kind of sealing his guy off to give a little bit more space. It was just a really, really good performance for him all the way across. And you know what? I kept thinking after the game, maybe this is crazy, but I was like, who Malachi kind of reminds me of is Donovan Clingan from UConn when he was a freshman.
Huh.
I was like, that was a hometown kid who was a good recruit, but not like a top 10 kid, but who was big and ate space. And his freshman year, I remember watching him, and I was like, him from November all the way to March when they won the national championship, when he was a freshman coming off the bench, he showed a ton of growth. And then as a sophomore is when he really took off and became like what he ended up becoming. And I look at Malachi, hometown kid, just like Donovan, really big, eats space, growing a ton his freshman year, almost the same size. I was like, maybe there's some comparison there in my mind. And I just kind of kept thinking about that. So if he turns out to be like that at some point, that'd be incredible. He's on such a trajectory right now. It's really fun to watch, probably even more so for Shawn, because Shawn had to deal with him in high school over and over again. It was a huge headache for him. It's just really fun to watch, though, you know?
Huge headache for me. But when it comes to guys like Malachi and bigs, right? And just the position that they play, like, there's a difference in occupying space and occupying a person, and not just rolling into space, but when there's nothing there at a ball screen, it's just occupying a defender. And I feel like you're seeing Malachi do those things, like Spencer's talking about, sealing guys off that are creating advantages for Kentucky and chipping guys and doing things. Understanding that you're not just floating to a spot, but you're rolling with a purpose and you're finding a body and you're making contact. That's the physicality that wins you games in this league, in any league. That's the physicality that finds its way in the NCAA tournament. That is the difference in going home the first weekend or the second weekend. Those are the consistent things that as Malachi continues to develop, that you're seeing happen. And that's where he's been steady and consistent from the beginning. And he's finding a way to be Kentucky's best option at that spot. And it's not out of just because they have to. It's because he's claimed that role. And he claimed it early in the season and he's not got stagnant with it. He's continued to develop and get better. And now showing up on scouting reports, he is very important to what Kentucky does and on both ends of the floor. But just I love the intent and the purpose that he plays with. And that's probably been the biggest storyline, I think, for Kentucky, is if they didn't have the development of him, I don't know where the season would be at this point. But he's been very steady. It's not that you're going to get 15, 16, 17 points out of him every night. But, man, he's going to do his job, and he's not going to complain about it, and he's going to make some of those tough plays that are required for you to be successful and allow these other guys to make shots. And now you're seeing it all kind of come together in a half. We'll see if it starts to come together in full 40. And if they ever do that, I mean, maybe our conversation we're having is even more positive than what we're having right now.
Yeah, I think that's where I want to take the conversation next. Spencer, get your take on it. But yeah, I hope that the team success matches the Donovan Clingan. Same trajectory with Malachi. I hope it leads to the same lucrative finish for this team. But they're not going to get there without playing a full 40 minutes. Like, as fun as it is to celebrate the big comebacks and 3 straight 12-plus point comebacks dating back to Mississippi State, like, this is not a sustainable place to live in. You play with fire, you will get burnt eventually. How do you put together 40 minutes, take what you love from the second half and take away what you hate in the first half with this team?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it just briefly earlier when I said I think a big part of it is that we're just way too reactive early in the game. And we're way too – it's almost like Pope's got that saying where he likes to collect data and all that. It's like our team is out there also collecting data where they're just kind of like, I'm just feeling this out or whatever, where the other team is like, we're doing what we came here to do. And then at some point, and it seems to be in the second half or against Mississippi State, it happened a little bit earlier, we decide, okay, we're going to kind of start to enforce our will and do what we want to do. I think a lot of that is getting up and down the court quicker early. We create a lot of momentum. We create a lot of offensive sustainability by like in our transition game. And what surprises me is we're one of the best transition teams in the country. This team is really efficient in transition, and Jasper only makes that better. Like he had that transition 3 that he pulled up.
That's so sick.
That was gutsy. That was a really gutsy play. And to what Shawn and I were talking about earlier, that's a play he doesn't make 3 weeks ago, if he's subbing in real quick for Jalen Lowe. But he made it now because he was feeling good and all that, and he was in a good rhythm. We got to get up and down the court a little bit more early. When we started our comeback against Mississippi State, it's when we got out and started running. We generated a couple turnovers. We got a little bit more aggressive in the passing lane. We were seeking out contact. We were a little bit more aggressive in defending ball screens and making them uncomfortable. teams are way too comfortable against us early in the game. We are not making them uncomfortable. We're not getting them out of sync. They're just doing what they're doing. And the worst of it all was that first half against LSU. LSU was completely comfortable in whatever they wanted to do. It was like they were playing practice against the shell drill, for us defensively. And we weren't getting out and running. Part of that is to get out and run, you got to get stops. We're not generating stops super early on in the game. We're letting that first segment, we're letting teams stack up 8, 9, 10, 12 points. Again, we let Mississippi State open the game 12 of 14 from the field. It's impossible to get out and run in transition unless you get stops and you rebound the ball. And, when you let Mississippi State open the game 12 of 14 from the field, you're not going to be able to do that. So our defensive intensity and effort in making teams uncomfortable and really kind of getting after them and being the aggressor on that end of the floor creates some misses. And then don't be so timid on the offensive end now and set something up or whatever. Let's just get out and run. We used to say when I was in South Florida, now we were never talented enough to do it, but Coach Gregory would always say, if I don't have to call a play in the first 5 minutes of the game, I'm going to be the happiest coach in America. You don't want to have to call plays early on. You've got plays queued up, but if we can just get stops, get out and run, that's what you want to do. And we're just not doing that right now early in the game. And we're deciding at some point a little bit later on, hey, let's do it. Let's up our intensity defensively. Let's get out and run. And that's when the comebacks are starting. But it's taking way too long and we're being way too reactive. So it's just a mindset that has to shift for us early in the game.
And Shawn, I think the second half was weird as well. As I don't want to even speak. Me saying it's not sustainable to live in this territory of getting down by as much to force miraculous comebacks. I don't want to. If you feel differently, if you think this team just can live in that territory, just be the comeback cats all season long, by all means, be my guest. But you also have to give credit in the second half, like Nate meant. They did a great job on him in the first half, and then Nate just kind of took the game over. I think the officials were calling some touchy stuff, and it the game I think could have been spread even it could have been totally flipped upside down. Had a couple of things, Nate not done his thing, the officiating kind of been a little bit more level in my opinion. And then also, just missing some gimmies around the rim. Mo had missed some gimmies. Ortega had a couple gimmies that rimmed out. That Kentucky could have won this game by double digits themselves, kind of closer to the Mississippi State script than the LSU script. Can this just be the comeback cats all season long, or do we need to see a full 40 minutes from this group to live it to its height?
You need to see a full 40. I don't think anyone wants to live the way that they've had to live the last two, but you've got, I believe, 49, 53, and 48 are the second half scoring totals over the last three games. Those may not be in order, but those are the totals. And on the other side, you're under 40, one under 30. Those numbers are going to play in your favor. If you can find a way to not have the first half margins, then you're having different storylines and different conversations about the margins of victory that Kentucky's able to piece together. But they build confidence, and it starts with getting stops. And that's where Spencer's coming from. If you can get a couple of early stops that then kind of ignite and just get your transition game going. Kentucky has executed down the stretch the last few games, getting into their actions, getting the ball where they want it to go, getting timely buckets, hitting timely threes. Those things are coming, and they've been developing over the last couple of games. Now it's about how do you make that transition to the first half. We know our identity late. You're finding the identity late. What is our identity early? Because that first 5 minutes, you're getting your feet wet. You're getting a feel of the game. The pace is being established. What can we do? Is it a substitution pattern? Is it what we're doing defensively? Is it the actions we're running offensively? What can we adjust that puts us in a position to be more successful and have a better first half? And those are things that the coaching staff will have to come together and kind of figure out, and they watch film. But what's working in the second half is I think it's just point blank, they're building confidence. This team is getting more confident as the game goes along. Even though the deficit is there, they'll make a play or two, and then it's okay, we can do this. And now we'll stick with this, and we'll make this player. Somebody gets a breakaway and a steal, like Cam Williams gets a big one at LSU, and then Colin Chandler comes up with a play and a toss and a pitch ahead to Oweh for a basket. It's defensive plays. It's grabbing a rebound. It's getting a stop. Those things that Kentucky are doing, it's doing in the second half, they're stacking it. But the first half, it's stacking in the wrong direction. So find the middle here and find some balance. But I truly believe the second half is guys just find confidence and they get in a rhythm. And if you can have those numbers that I was talking about, upper 40s, upper 50s in league play, I don't care who you're playing. If you have those in 3 consecutive second halves, you've got a little bit more offense to your game than what you've shown for the full season. If you can do that for 3 straight in the second half, you're capable of doing it for 40. And will Kentucky get to that point? It's probably the biggest question mark.
Spencer, if that's your question, can they get to that point?
Yeah, we definitely can. We're built, like we talked about earlier, we're building stuff. And like Shawn knows more than anybody, being in it, he knows like when your team finds something, you're excited. You're like, man, we were kind of lost in the sauce a little bit, but now we seem to find something that works. And then you start to build off of that. Guys get really comfortable and guys get confident in their role. Like we're seeing Aberdeen right now develop a lot of confidence in his role, where I think he lost some confidence early on after that Louisville game. He seemed, he opened the season with, I think, 7 or 8 straight double-digit games. And then after the North Carolina game, he totally dropped off. And now he's starting to find that again, which is really fun. But yeah, I mean, we're playing with fire. There were a couple things that against all odds happened to let us, I'm not trying to be negative, but like the LSU kid missing 2 free throws there with a second and a half to go, you have the Jacoby Gillespie kid, an 87% free throw shooter. He went 2 of 4 in the final 2 minutes of the game. Like we had some things really break in our favor in order to pull that out. That's not sustainable. Like you've got to get yourself in a rhythm to where you're building a cushion. You're not fighting back. And we can get there 100%. We're building something fun right now, which is great. We've got an opportunity in front of us this week to get two more wins on our home floor. To really kind of push ourselves up into the upper echelon of that SEC race. And then it's like, let's see what we can do in February.
Shawn, what can 2 more wins? They're, neither quad 1 and you love that you're sitting at 3 and 5 now in quad 1 games, but to just turn 3 wins, which has not been done ever in the Mark Pope era, which is crazy to me. He's not won 3 straight regular season SEC games as the head coach. So for him to get a three game winning streak in the league, turn it into 5 games, going into a massive week next week against Vandy and Arkansas, how confident would a 2-0 pod victory mean for you this week?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you talk about Mark Pope and those numbers, I mean, the league was really good a year ago, which certainly plays into that. But other teams have found a way to do it, right? And now, to me, how do you stack success? You found a way to stack it in a week, even though it didn't look pretty. And they're at different points in both those games. I'm sure Kentucky fans were ready to throw the remote at the TV, and probably, like a lot of us, had probably written them off for dead at halftime of the LSU game. Because I was with Spencer, I was beginning to talk that it was 2-7 was on the table to start league play. And then you're talking a completely different scenario when it comes to NCAA tournament play. But finding a way to get back-to-back quad 1 wins, and now you move into another week, it's about stacking that success. Maybe it doesn't show up on your resume, but losing certainly does. So that's the end that you want to stay away from. Can I continue to stay on the positive side of momentum, building something within each individual game? And what can I carry over from this week to this week that's coming up that I can build on that then sets me up as we go throughout and move into February? I mean, we're now 5 games into the league and just a couple of weeks away from being at the midpoint of – that threw me off for a second because I could see the top of my head. But the quad 1 territory, the resume is not bad. It's not bad. Put it back up there. When you really look at this thing, it's not bad. They lost some opportunities early in the season, but there's nothing down in the bottom half that's just crushing you. You'd like to have the 1 out of the 2, but it's not a resume that's bad on paper. Like just because they were able to win the last 2. Now, if that were 1-7 in quad 1s, they're not crushing you, but you're also not doing anything to kind of lay that foundation for what you're wanting it to be on Selection Sunday. But now they have put together something that they can build on with plenty of Q1s available between now and March.
I like this question from Anna Campbell. Was there a player during Saturday's game that won't fully show up on the box score but was crucial to beating Tennessee? Spencer, I'll toss that one to you. I think For me, Mo Diabate is probably that guy. Just the way he carried himself, especially with the physicality in the second half, came up with 4 offensive rebounds, leading to all those second chance points. 17 second chance points were massive. But who jumps out at you as a hidden box score guy?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of a little bit mentioned it earlier with Malachi, because I think a lot of the Mo Diabate, some of the Mo Diabate success came from how much like physicality Malachi brought to like kind of that area right under the rim. And so then Mo Diabate was able to kind of clean up and stuff a little bit. But you're right, he had an unbelievable impact on the game. And I think he was 4 of 11 from the field and stuff. He only got to the free throw line twice. And so like you'd like to see maybe a little bit more out of that. But like the way he, especially down the stretch, Mo Diabate came up with, I think, 3 rebounds in the final 3 minutes, all on the offensive end that were really big for us in giving us, second chance opportunities and that type of stuff. So I'd probably give it to him. I think I'll say this, Brandon Garrison was also okay in the minutes that he provided. He played, I think, 18 minutes, which is maybe more than I would typically want Brandon Garrison to play, but he was actually pretty good when he was out there in being physical. And again, it doesn't show up on the box score because I think he only got 2 or 3 rebounds. He only scored 2 points, but he brought physicality. He was another guy who came off the bench who decided, I'm going to meet Tennessee out there on the ledge with how physical I'm going to be. And I think kind of helped set the tone. And then to his credit, he didn't actually swing on anybody at the end of the game in that scrum, which was nice restraint for him. And once again, we have another picture of Mark Pope having to peel Brandon Garrison away from an opposing team.
Underrated strength for Pope, buddy. Like the way he was reaching across to pull him back and kind of had another guy like, all right, Pope, maybe hitting the weights yourself, Pope.
Yeah. 100%. I think the guy that maybe I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of, because he was good when he was out there, was also Yelovich. He had a couple of blown coverages and stuff in the first half. Yeah, but you know what? A lot of guys did. That's how we got down 17. And he hit a 3. I think he was 2 of 4 from deep. Only played 10 or 12 minutes. I think maybe he could have played even a little bit more, but I would have liked to see him and Diabate maybe play side by side for a few more minutes and like see what that would have done. But there was a lot of good stuff physicality wise that obviously doesn't show up in the box score that really helped.
And when you're talking box score guys, for me, I look at guys that don't take a high number of shot attempts, right? And how effective were you at impacting the game? And I mean, we all know Malachi Moreno's impact, but only attempting 4 shots, but yet you grab 6 rebounds, you block 4. How many did you affect that you didn't get your hand on? And just playing with a physicality and a purpose. And like I said, you're not occupying space, you're occupying a person, like rolling into guys and being physical and establishing some physicality there. Like that's how you're impactful beyond the box score.
Where does Jaden Quaintance fit into any of this? Like, I feel like that is the rotation is still an obvious question. Changing the starting lineup hasn't necessarily answered any question that we had about it. I asked Yelovich before the Tennessee game, why do you start games so slow? And he said, I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I'm not even going to lie to you right now. I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. I was like, hey, I appreciate the transparency. So where do things stand for you in that regard, Spencer? And how do you factor in just the big, massive 6'10", 260-pound question mark that is Jaden Quaintance?
Here's the thing with Jaden. He's so talented. Like we all know, he can be incredibly impactful at the rim, and he's physical and all that. We saw all of that against St. John's. The thing with him is, we always knew this, he's going to need time in order to become fully what he is capable of. And that time is a little bit not running out, but it's getting shorter and shorter for him to kind of turn into the player that we all know he can be on a college basketball floor. And obviously, I think we talked about it on the last show where if we think that the swelling in the knee is going to be continual, so it might be a kind of a continual in-out thing like we saw with like Lamont Butler last year, like we were seeing for a little bit with Jalen Lowe. That doesn't help. That is a detriment to the team and to the flow and to the rhythm that you're in, and guys are constantly changing roles. And is Brandon Garrison going to play? And is Malachi our guy? Or are we trying to split minutes with JQ? So I think I don't know the answer to that, but I think that window is dwindling a little bit for him to fully become the impact player that we were hoping to see going into the season. I think I'd like to see him work back into the lineup one more time. And then I think if the swelling redevelops, then I think you have to have a real serious discussion about maybe shutting him down, because obviously there's maybe something going on. There's maybe some scar tissue in there that needs to get cleared out or something. But I would like to see him get worked into the rotation again. And again, we played Brandon Garrison 18 minutes on Saturday. That's 18 minutes that, just being honest, I would probably rather see JQ play, right? Or maybe there's games where JQ is bringing it, like St. John's, and it flips, and JQ is the one playing 25, 26 minutes, and maybe Malachi is getting 14 or 15 or whatever. But having just two really good complementary bigs that are capable of quite a bit and have a higher ceiling than maybe a Brandon Garrison. But I don't know, because does that then eat into maybe some of Yelovich's minutes, in that kind of two-man rotation down low and stuff? It's hard to say for sure, but I do know, in my opinion, that the window for JQ is closing a little bit to give him the time and the space that he needs to get back into the swing and really develop into what he wants to be. So it needs to happen soon, or I would say it doesn't happen at all, and he starts prepping for the draft.
Yeah, we don't want that. That would not be fun. But at least Malachi is playing at a level that it's not like an absolute need, and we're living and dying by every single health update from JQ. Like, honestly, it's an afterthought. Like, he's icing on the cake of, like, I feel comfortable enough with Jaden, or with Malachi. As you said, I'd prefer him to be the off guy alongside instead of Brandon Garrison. But Brandon hasn't been, he's really grown on me here lately to not be just a total negative, to be like, hey, we're not losing minutes every time he's on the floor. So I'd prefer Jaden, but it's not life or death every time he's in or out. So I at least appreciate that. We'll start wrapping this thing up. But Shawn, interesting in terms of big picture. Shout out to our friends at BetMGM. The updated odds, so no longer on the updated list to win the national championship. The deepest it goes is Virginia at plus 5,000, but still solid value there at plus 2,200 to make the Final Four. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I think it's interesting value. Before we give a shout out to our friends at BetMGM
for Kentucky.
Yes, plus 2,200.
It's if you hit that one, I'm still. It's going to take more than a week for me to be confident in making that bet. But what was it a week ago?
Definitely not that.
Yep, definitely not that. So let's see. If you've seen enough now in two 17, 18-point comebacks in the second half, then maybe now's the moment to play the ticket. But I don't know. It's definitely a step in the right direction, and it's good to see those numbers trending in a direction that's more favorable than what they were just a week ago, because I placed the bet a week ago.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and you will get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary with our friends at BetMGM. Some closing thoughts to get us into this Texas game. What do you need to see, Spencer, from this battle against Sean Miller in his first season coaching the Texas Longhorns?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I haven't fully fleshed out my keys to the game just yet, but I know rebounding is going to be a big part of it. I think Texas is like 17th in the country, I'm pretty sure, in rebounding rate. So winning the glass, battling on the glass, all the stuff we just talked about with Malachi, Mo Diabate, Brandon Garrison when he comes in, who again gave us good minutes. We got to be really physical on the glass. Guards have to rebound down. It's a really good opportunity for us. Texas is right on the border of a quad 1 win. So it's not quite what Sean loves, but it's probably what Sean likes, a quad 2 win. But like they're hot. They're coming off of a win on the road against Alabama, and then they come back home and they smack a pretty good Vanderbilt team by 16 points. That's really good. Where Texas struggles, again, we talked a little bit about that LSU team, actually the ball sticking a lot more with LSU even than it does with Kentucky. Texas takes that to an even whole different level. I think they're 330th in assist rate. So they are a lot of one. So individual defense is going to be really, really important. We need to put a premium on really getting locked in on our matchup and playing really, really good individual defense, being in help, right? Because the ball is not going to zing and move around with Texas. They are going to look to make plays one-on-one. They're going to look to put themselves in position to get angles and stuff where they can get to the rim. The Trayvon Mark kid is a really good shooter, and he's a good playmaker and stuff. So we need to get really locked in on, first of all, individual defense and really knowing our matchup, and then being really, really solid in help and forcing them to take bad shots, because they will take bad shots if you force them into it, because they're not a team that's going to look to move the ball. And Texas is a game that could be a quad one win when all's said and done by the time the year's over, because they're stacking wins themselves. So they're feeling good about themselves right now. Really important to win that one. And then we have a borderline quad 2, quad 3 opportunity against the Fighting Travis Perrys at the end of the week, which could be fun. And let's hope that, I like the nickname Rally Cats for this team. Let's hope we don't need that this week. I don't want another Mississippi State or something like that where we're having to fight from a double digit. Let's get out early and let's feel good. Let's give the fans at Rub something exciting early on in the game.
The chat liked Claw Cats. Is that what I saw early? The Rally Cats was one that they threw out there, but I thought Claw Cats was one that kind of started gaining steam. Let me see.
I see Captain Crass 21 Clawback Cats. I like that.
Clawback Cats. I do like that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that name.
I do like that. Shawn, your what you need to see out of the Cats on Wednesday to continue this momentum.
I almost said consistency, but I kind of don't. I don't want to see it because that means they're down 17 again.
Inconsistent.
I would say a better start that puts you in position to not have to, claw your way out of a deficit like that. Like let's see if you can put 40 minutes together. Can you be effective at the start of the game? Can you be effective in the middle of it? And can you close it with the same intensity and effectiveness and execution? Like those are the things that I want to see Kentucky go to that next level. That then as you start to turn towards late January here in February, that you're having maybe a different conversation about what the ceiling of this version of Kentucky is.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's a comment asking, we'll wrap up with this. Of course, it started going, but it was about my general pessimism about this team, with how negative I've been, what my thought. Yeah, there we go, from Blue Pool UK. I've been very negative on this team, and it's been totally justified. Like I hated this team's heart. I hated their just the want to. It did, like, I hate feeling like I care more about wins and losses than the team and what they're showing on the floor. Like, I thought that Gonzaga game was a disgrace. Like, I hated every single second of that, and all of the commentary that came as a result of those individual performances up to that point, to start 5-4 on the year and then starting 0-2 in the conference. I think it was all totally justified. I loved the response against Indiana, but Indiana is who they are. St. John's is a better win now, and I love the response there. That was a big win. I'll always appreciate that one. But this week was the first time that it really, like, that kind of felt out of desperation. This feels more like identity-based, that this team just kind of does have, like, is finding its heart and finding its confidence. So, as negative as I was about the team early on in the non-conference and to start the SEC, I am flipping on the opposite ends and in terms of optimism that they're learning how to win games the way you need to win games in the NCAA tournament. Life is not pretty when you get to Nashville in the SEC tournament. Once you get to the NCAA tournament, you're going to find yourself down late. You're going to put yourself in position to need to come back. Or, like, going down to Baton Rouge and winning that game by 30 would have done nothing for this team long-term outside of adding a quad one win blowout for short-term confidence. But to learn how to win after experiencing what this team had in the past, hitting rock bottom the way they have, I feel over the moon about where they are currently, while also acknowledging that there's a lot to get fixed, and the hole that they dug was really, really, really deep. And now they're not out of it. They are climbing out of it, but they're at least like halfway out of the pit of misery. So I feel like my pessimism was totally justified early, but they're slowly but surely winning me back, and I think that's all that matters. Long runway to work with, a lot of basketball left to be played to wrap this thing up. So to wrap this thing up, Shawn and Spencer, where can fans find your work?
@_Coach S. Smith. That's where you can find me.
Anything that you want to get off your chest before we call this a day?
Just keep winning, baby. Just keep winning. That's all I'm going to say. 3 in a row. You found a way to get them on the road. Now come back home and let's see what Rupp Arena's energy's like after that week.
Same questions for you, Spencer. First, with where they can find your work.
Yeah, I'm @Spencer_Smith 10, so you can find me there. Yeah, nothing. I agree with Shawn. Just keep winning. Keep finding ways to win. I don't necessarily care. I do care how we win, but I care a lot more that we win. So just keep finding ways to win, and keep finding ways to win in different ways, because that's great. Because then you're just building an identity and a belief in yourself. Like, hey, we can win in all sorts of different ways, which is a really fun thing to build and sets you up for some success, later in March and then, SEC tournament or down the stretch or whatever. So just keep finding ways to win. We need a good week this week. We need to take care of business at home, take care of business with these 2 games. And then you have a really tough road stretch. You have a tough swing with Vanderbilt and Arkansas, but let's take care of business right now this week. And then let's tackle those.
Let's go ahead and do that. Wednesday, big one against Texas. Hopefully you go 2-0 on the week, and we'll be celebrating accordingly from there. So for Jack, for Shawn, for Spencer, and for Stephen, a lot of S's helping out on the show. Appreciate each and every one of you. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you next time. Go Cats. And I guess I'm also ending this.